He is harmful to democracy. We all know it. His defenders want to play semantic games so that he doesn't get held responsible. Why do you need to defend him? Why do you feel the need to defend him? I don't get it. He's a bad guy. Trump's indicted again in election subversion case brought by Jack Smith. This is the same handful of problems that he has had, but this time Jack Smith has gotten an understanding of what the Supreme Court said, that you can't get him. He was on base. He was touching base. Okay, so he's safe. When he broke the law last time, you can't connect it to him being president. If he did the crimes as president, that's fine. That's acceptable. He just gets to be immune. So he's read it. He's rewritten his previous stuff, and it is pretty good.
Hello human, it is me Canuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
No, Zayla, it's not that he didn't have an understanding. It's just that the Supreme Court changed the rules after he wrote his last indictment. He wrote the indictment. Then the Supreme Court said, no. We got this whole immunity thing. That's a new, exciting twist to the law. And that didn't exist before. And so he had to rewrite it. The SCOTUS is the umpires, and they changed the rules on him. So he has comprehended those rule changes that they made on the fly in the middle of the game. And he has brought a new subversion case. A federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. has re-indicted Donald Trump on 4 felony charges related to his effort to subvert the 2020 presidential election. The 36-page indictment, secured Tuesday by Special Counsel Jack Smith, is an attempt by prosecutors to streamline the case against Trump to address the Supreme Court's ruling last month that concluded presidents enjoy sweeping immunity from prosecution for their official conduct. So he took out all of the official conducts. The new indictment removes some specific allegations against Trump, but contains the same 4 criminal charges, including conspiracy to defraud the United States. It's a signal that Smith believes the High Court's immunity decision doesn't pose a major impediment to convicting the former president. The superseding indictment, which was presented to a new grand jury that had not previously heard evidence in this case, reflects the government's efforts to respect the implementation of the Supreme Court's holdings and remand instructions. So that's what he did. He remanded instructions. Okay, let's read the thing. I think it's very interesting because right off the bat, it hits it out of the park. Introduction, the defendant, Donald J. Trump. J stands for Junebug, Donald Junebug Trump. Was a candidate for the president of the United States in 2020. He lost the 2020 presidential election. Bam. Hard stop. Nice. I like that. That's the second sentence. He lost the 2020 presidential election. Despite having lost, the defendant, who was also the incumbent president, was determined to remain in power. So for more than 2 months following Election Day on November 3rd, 2020, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome determinative fraud in the election, that he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew that they were false, but the defendant used the campaign to repeat and widely disseminate them anyway, to make his knowingly false claims appear legitimate, create an intense national atmosphere of mistrust, anger, and erode public faith in the administration of the election. As candidate and a citizen, so not president, as a candidate, you don't have immunity from crimes. As a citizen, you don't have immunity from crimes. The defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud. So he's allowed to lie about it. That's not the crime. He was also entitled to formally challenge the results of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. Indeed, in many cases, the defendant did pursue these methods of contesting the election results. His efforts to change the outcome in any state through recounts, audits, and legal challenges were uniformly unsuccessful. Shortly after Election Day, the defendant also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. In doing so, the defendant perpetrated 3 criminal conspiracies: a conspiracy to defraud the United States government by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to impair, obstruct, and defeat the lawful federal government function by which results of the presidential election are collected; a conspiracy to corruptly obstruct and impede the January 6th congressional proceedings. We all saw that. And a conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted in violation of 18 U.S.C. 241. Each of these conspiracies, which built on the widespread mistrust of the defendant, was creating through pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud, targeted a bedrock function of the United States federal government and the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. Damn, that's strong language, and I like it. It's fantastic. I think this is exactly what happened, and it's exactly why I'm upset with Donald Trump, and I'm upset with the people who support him. This would be really great if subverting election results meant anything prior to 2020. I mean, of what I read, what was wrong, man? Why defend Trump? I don't get it. He clearly does not respect the United States or its votes or its voters. How does Trump subvert anything? Oh, do you need me to read again? I'll read again. It's right here. I got the link. It's right there. Oh, I had it scooted over a little bit too far. Let's scoot it over a little bit. Maybe that was what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Let's scoot it over. Oh, unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. Unlawful means to discount legitimate votes. He made it to where those votes weren't going to count. A conspiracy to defraud the United States. A conspiracy to corruptly obstruct and impede on January 6th, and a conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted. He is harmful to democracy. We all know it. It's just he and his defenders want to play semantic games so that he doesn't get held responsible. And that drives me nuts. I don't know why we would. Like, if we're going to circle around Trump subverted the election because he subverted the election. He subverted the election by these actions right here. His claims were false. The defendant knew that the claims were false, and he's allowed to do that. But as a candidate and citizen, the defendant had a right, like every American, to seek publicly the election to even claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud. He also entitled to formally challenge those results. Shortly after taking the election, the defendant also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes. Those all unlawful means, I could continue to read them. The allegations contained it starts to get into legalese at this point. Did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators, known and unknown to the grand jury, to defraud the United States government by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to impair, obstruct, and defeat the lawful federal government function by which the results of the presidential election are collected, counted, and certified in the federal government. By telling the fake electors and organizing their sending fake paperwork to the Electoral College. He was involved with that. That's what they're going to try and prove. In the literal sense, how did he subvert the election? Sending the fake electors, calling the Raffensperger and telling him to find votes. And then on Jan 6th, riling the people up and getting them excited and telling them that there was fraud, telling them that he won. If a phone call to Georgia governor, find me 11,000 votes. That's coercion. That's conspiracy to defraud the United States. And I mean, maybe if you ask him today, does he still, how is that circular? No, it's pointing at the thing, Zayla. It's circular because he did it. He did the thing, and the thing is illegal. And then you're saying it's illegal because he did it and it's illegal? That's not circular, boss. That's definitional. You're talking about definitional. Do you have something other than Jack Smith's for subverting? No, this is the actual thing that's happening. Yeah, but what's the definition of is? What's the definition of subverting? Jack Smith's going to try and prove this in court. He's a better lawyer than I am, and this is what he wrote. And it seems to lay out the facts as I have seen them as well. When I saw the facts, I looked at the news, and I paid attention to what was going on. This seems like what happened. He has put it into a court document and suggested that that is illegal. Sounds illegal to me if I listen to it. Does it not sound illegal to you, Zayla? Christ almighty, man, just for subverting. That's man, I can look up the definition of subversion if you'd like. Is that what we're doing? I don't know what your point is. It's 36 pages. I only read the first one because that's the exciting one. We can keep reading if you'd like. We're on page 3 of 36. I was only going to read the first one, but we can keep going. It turns into legal language at this point. Where does Jack Smith refer to that definition? I suppose he does somewhere. So does he need to litigate the word subversion? I mean, I suppose that somebody could. Manner and means, the defendant and co-conspirators used knowingly false claims of election fraud to get state legislators to elect and election officials to subvert the legitimate election results and change the electoral votes for the defendant's opponent, Joseph Biden. Like it's saying it right here. They used false claims of election fraud to get legislators and election officials to subvert the legitimate election result and change electoral votes for the defendant's opponent. Yeah. The defendant and co-conspirators organized fraudulent slates of electors in 7 targeted states. The defendant and his co-conspirators organized fake voters. Zayla, I'm telling you, the man committed crimes, and you're over here arguing the definition of subversion because you want to defend him. I don't know why, but you do. You feel like you need to. I'm aware of at least one true claim of election fraud, so I'm not convinced. You're not convinced what? That it was illegal? I'm aware of at least one true claim of election fraud. Like for one guy sent in a fake vote for Biden? Is that what you're telling me? So Donald Trump can never be wrong because one guy cheated for Biden? Sounds like a shit system. I'll keep reading. Let's see. They organized fraudulent slates of electors, sent in fake documents. The defendant and co-conspirators attempted to enlist the vice president in his ceremonial role as president of the Senate certification proceeding to fraudulently alter the election results. So they tried to make the vice president do an illegal thing. They pressured him to do so. At some point, pressuring people to do illegal crimes might be a crime. After it became public on the afternoon of January 6th that the vice president, as president of the Senate, would not fraudulently alter the election results, a large and angry crowd, including many individuals whom the defendant had deceived into believing the vice president could and might change the election results, violently attacked the Capitol and halted the proceeding. As the violence ensued, the defendant and co-conspirators exploited the disruption by redoubling efforts to levy false claims of election fraud and convince members of the Congress to further delay the certification based on those claims. He has gone outside the bounds of the law, hence unlawful, illegal, and they're bringing him up on charges. I think this is great. This lays it all out. This talks about him knowing that he lost. The defendant was on notice that his claims were untrue, yet he continued to say them. He continues to say them today. I'm going to show you a video in just a minute where he tells you that he won the state of California in 2020. You know that's not true, but he's going to say it. The defendant continued to make false claims, nonetheless, with deliberate disregard for the truth, including through his Twitter account. Throughout the conspiracies, although the defendant sometimes used his Twitter account to communicate with the public as president about official actions and policies, he also regularly used it for personal purposes, including to spread knowingly false claims of election fraud, extort his supporters to travel to Washington, D.C. on the 6th, pressure the vice president to misuse his ceremonial role in the certification proceeding, and leverage the events at the Capitol on January 6th to unlawfully retain power. Yeah, man, this is all pretty cut and dry. The defendant continued his lies throughout the day of the certification proceeding, and then we're just describing January 6th. He did this thing. Let's see, in specifically Arizona, on November 13th, 2020, the defendant had a conversation with the campaign manager who informed him that a claim that he had been circulating that a substantial number of non-citizens had voted in Arizona was false. So his campaign manager told him that this was false. Yet he continued to suggest it, to say that it is true. All right, because he's a super duper liar. We shouldn't let him in charge of anything. We should, in fact, prevent him from being anywhere near the levers of power. On November 22nd, 8 days before Arizona's governor certified the ascertainment of the state's legitimate electors based on the popular vote, the defendant and the co-conspirator called the Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives and made knowingly false claims of election fraud aimed at interfering with the ascertainment and by voting Arizona's electors as follows. If you lie to the Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives as the president, that's just cool. It's fine. It's not a problem. Let's just ignore it because we don't have the definition for subversion. If the vice president's role is ceremonial, why does it matter functionally? He does a ceremonial role. They tried to force him to not do that ceremonial role illegally, unlawfully, pressured him. His boss told him to do something illegal. That could be an illegal crime. If your boss at work tells you to do something illegal, they might be committing a crime, not you. It's apparently obvious that Trump and the Republicans in Arizona submitted an alternate set of electors. They in no way attempted or made an effort to pretend that those electors were the original. Of course they did. Why did they send two sets? Something ceremonial illegal. You're twisting this so far, Zayla, because you're dying to defend him. You really are, and I don't get it. Why do you need to defend him? Why do you feel the need to defend him? I don't get it. He's a bad guy. He has done wrong things. He has harmed our country, and you're trying to protect him, and I don't get it. I don't know why. Twisted Transistor, please feel need to answer my question. So, ceremonially indicted. He pressed the vice president to do an illegal thing. What more do you want? Why did they send? Why did they tell the people in Arizona to send a different set of electors? Because they wanted to cause chaos. They wanted to disrupt the peace. They wanted to subvert. They wanted to cause chaos so that he could go into the TV and look into the camera and say, I've been hearing there's a whole bunch of electors, too many electors even. Some electors are there correctly voting for me and some are voting for Joe Biden. We don't know what's going on. Could be anything. So what we're going to do is just push it on down the road. We're going to put this all on pause while we figure out what's going on. And then he gets to stay in power. If it's ceremonial, then it's not a crime. If it's ceremonial, you're just making shit up now. The Congress had a job to do that day. Ceremonial doesn't mean worthless. It doesn't mean unnecessary. Yes, ceremonial shit is official. You can be officially ceremonial, my man. That doesn't mean it's worthless or imaginary or nothing. Ceremonial means not up to his discretion is what it meant. He is reading all of the information we have out loud so that everyone can hear it and be put on the record. He doesn't get to change what those electors say. He doesn't get to decide what those electors are, which is why it's ceremonial, because all he's doing is reading the things that we already know so that they can be entered into the official record. Ceremonial does not mean unofficial, man. You're misunderstanding that word. Ceremonial exactly means worthless. No, it doesn't. Name me something ceremonial that is worth something. Apparently, the vice president reading the damn votes is valuable and not nothing. Circular. You like that word, but I don't think you know what it means, boss. Circular doesn't. I'm giving you definitions. I can look up the definition for the word ceremonial. I can do that too. Ceremonial of or relating to, characterized by ceremony, formal ritual. That doesn't mean worthless. If you had a wedding ceremony, it would kind of be a big deal, kind of means something. If you had some sort of formal ritual, there is a formal ritual that the government does when it counts these votes. That doesn't make it worthless. That doesn't make it pointless. That doesn't mean you can't disrupt it. That doesn't mean it can't be caused chaos. It doesn't mean that you just get to say whatever you want and make it and lie about it and tell the vice president to shit all over it. Doesn't make any sense. Synonym: ceremonious, conventional, or solemn. Okay. So by telling the vice president to change the votes, change and accept fake electors in this formal ceremony within the United States government, he has broken the law. It is a lawful ceremony. And because of those things, that is why he should be held responsible. Let's bring him up on trial. Let's go to a trial. We've got the evidence. We've got all the stuff down. Let's bring it up for trial. But the Supreme Court, just like you, Zayla, for some reason that I can't fathom, are trying really hard to not ever let this guy be held responsible. I don't get it. I don't know what it is about him. Is he your dad? Is he your uncle? Is he related to you in some way? Like, you really just do not want this guy to ever be held responsible for any of the things that he does, because it's just okay when he does it. I swear to God, I think Trump got a monkey's paw wish sometime at some point in the 70s, and he wished, I wish I could never be held responsible for my actions. It's a good wish, but then the monkey paw moves in his hand, and then the wish comes true, and he's never held responsible. But the backfire, the twist of monkey paw wishes is that now he has to be saddled with the absolute worst followers in the world, with the MAGA hat crowd. It's very weird. Maybe he made that wish.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
Moving on slightly. Will this happen before the election? Absolutely not. I would sure hate for us to figure out if that guy broke the election law before we put him up for election. And I blame Joe Biden for that. He should have started this the day he got into office. It's what Biden should have done, but he didn't. He let the House do their investigation, which took a year or more, I remember watching all the investigation shows. And why did he do that? Because he wanted them to have their moment in the sun, their moment in the spotlight, and be talking about how bad this was, because that's good politics for the Dems. Okay, so he wanted a show. He let them put on their show. He let them prepare for their show. He let them wait a year for the show. Then he waited a little bit longer to have Merrick Garland pick out a special prosecutor so that it would be timed exactly to be happening right during this election, because they knew Trump was going to run again, because that is good for the Dems. Again, should have done it sooner.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.